Texas A&M added a much-needed piece to its wide receiver room with recent commit from Texas Tech, Micah Hudson. And don't look now, guys, but this may be the most talented young wide receiver room in the entire conference, maybe country, heading into the 2025 football season. Welcome to the SEC Unfiltered channel. I'm your host, Dave Shumate, longtime SEC personnel director, and I'm here to react and tell you how Micah Hudson fits into Texas A&M's offense. We may even throw some grades in, some personnel evaluation grades that I used to use as my grading scale when I was still in college football about 2 years ago. Before we do, let's get to our lovely sponsor from Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com and use code SECU for sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup, guys. I mean, there's tons of things to play on Prize Picks. It's not just your typical betting app. There's a bunch of fun prop bets I highly encourage you to go take advantage of. And hey, tell them your buddies over at SEC Unfiltered sent you. They are a proud sponsor of this reaction and this grading of Micah Hudson. But let's get right to it. Micah Hudson, wide receiver from Texas Tech, listed at 6 foot 195, originally from Lake Belton High School in Texas. Background, a member of the 2024 class, was a freshman this past year in Lubbock. Just reading off his credentials coming out of high school. 5-star receiver out of high school, fourth ranked overall wide receiver. I mean, it was a loaded wide receiver class last year. What'd you have? You had Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, Ryan Williams. I mean, fourth to be in that class, it's impressive. Number 4 player overall in the state of Texas, and the number 16 overall player in the 2024 class. He competed in basketball, track and field, multi-sport athlete. Just checks the box on all the athletic backgrounds. I'll give you the eval in just a minute. Last year, though, wasn't the productive season that he thought he would have heading in. Only 8 receptions, 123 yards in total. Had some lingering issues and lingering injuries. Drops were an issue at practice from talking to people close to the program. But background a little bit in the recruitment, just a big get overhaul here for Joey McGuire in the Meta High School. Texas A&M, I believe, if I'm right, finished runner-up, or they were there at the very end. Mike Elko's first kind of recruiting class he got into. Big pull was the dad. His dad, Micah's dad, played at Texas Tech as a defensive lineman, I think from 85 to 88. Texas Tech fans that are listening to this, if there are any, the few that are proud, they could probably correct us on the exact dates that his dad was a Red Raider. What is Texas A&M getting in Micah Hudson, folks? Here's my eval. I think a good frame, linear build, looks to possess the frame to add more mass. Again, he looks like he may be, again, I've never seen him in person. I think that's always a key eval. Going back to my time working at schools like Auburn, Georgia, Texas A&M, started off as a student at Alabama. These are the kind of things that you need to. That's why I think it's so valuable for these personnel people, these GMs, to be able to go out on the road at times, because some of these coaches, these full-time coaches, don't want to go out, these full 11. They don't want to be dealing with that. I think he possesses maybe a little bit of frame, not exactly like a running back, but looks like he can add some more mass. Excellent athletic ability, very functional overall athlete. The core strength of him, like I'm talking about his core, like very strong. Body control is exceptional. You see it on just getting the toes in, toe tapping. His back shoulder plays in the end zone. I think he could be a potential red zone nightmare. A little bit of a short strider. Let's call a spade there. But he does possess really good speed. Can take the top off the defense. I think he can win at all 3 levels. Like I mentioned a little bit, has a little bit of a running back to him. The carriage when he gets to the second level, carries it a little bit like a running back. You see a lot of that in his return too, on his kickoff returns. If you go back and watch those, smooth in his routes. I think it's a little choppy though at the top of them. But again, that's why he's going to play at an elite school like Texas A&M. Holloman Wiggins, the Texas A&M coach, former Alabama receiver coach. That's why he has coach in front of his name. That's why he is Coach Wiggins. That's why people refer to him as Coach Wiggins, because he's a coach. Again, it's always about the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's. But again, the fundamentals, the techniques, the nuances of the position. We see guys like Brian Hartline all the time at Ohio State posting videos and stuff, the little nuances of how they win, just that little, hey, instead of going, if you're cutting your route off at 10 yards when you're supposed to be going 12, that's an issue, or even 11. Like the little minor attention to detail, the detail things in route running will be key. He's got to get that. He's got to get that developed. But again, that's on the coach to help him polish what is a piece of clay that anyone would love to mold if you're a coach, if you're a personnel guy, just to see how it checks out with everything with Micah. But it looks to get a little tight, like I mentioned, in and out of his cuts. I think that can be worked on. Again, a young cat, every one of these kids have holes. That's just me watching it. I'm going to be honest with you here. Again, it's SEC Unfiltered, and I'm going to be an honest evaluator. Always prided myself in that. But again, plays with natural strength, displays very strong hands. That just jumps off the screen. Plays stronger than you think he would just off film. Again, like I keep going back to, plays like a running back when he gets to the second, third levels with the balls in his hands. Can win at all three levels. Can win in the screen game. Can win in the middle, in the intermediate range. And can win deep, run by corners and safeties. Has the potential to be a red zone nightmare, like I mentioned. Those back shoulder throws, those one-on-one matchups, due to his body control and his core. And let's be honest too, the thing I just mentioned that jumps off the film is strong hands. Now, that's all the physical traits one can talk about. Now the mental side. Talking to anyone who's close to the kid, you hear he struggled some in his first year adjusting. A lot of them do, folks. A lot of them do. Now, two things can be true at once. He can have an adjustment period as a freshman, as an 18-year-old kid. Let's call it what it is. But at the same time, I think when you go back and watch Zach Kitley's offense, who is now the FAU coach, head owl, Kitley's offense isn't necessarily the most complicated offense in the world. So I think that's two things can be true at once. Hey, it's an adjustment freshman year, but it's a little bit of a concern. If you're Colin Klein, Holloman Wiggins, Mike Elko, they're like, hey, he can pick up that offense. It's pretty simplified. We're not splitting atoms running this offense here. Let's just say it like that. Again, your freshman year can be tough, but that would be something that's a red flag, a hand raised guy to be like, hey, we need to figure this out. It wouldn't be something that totally disqualifies him. Let's be honest. Because again, he's a young guy. That's why I like him too. He's got 2 to 3 more years as well. That's why I love this take. But something to be that's something to be cautiously optimistic about a little bit. Where hey, like yeah, he struggled to learn. Let's go get him on the board. And I feel like in college football, that's where a lot of teams, a lot of programs fail at times. Is going to get these kids, these men, these players on the board and figure out what they know. And hey, do we think we can work with that, or is hey, that's going to be too much to overcome? Probably. I think that's where we as a college football world society struggled some to kind of figure out how smart some of these guys are. Do they have a lot of football intelligence? Do they have football? Do they have any FBI football intelligence? That's what we used to call it. But overall thoughts, thought this was a great get for Texas A&M that has been looking for that dynamic wide receiver. Add in, he will have it, like I mentioned, he will have at least 2 to 3 more years, and A&M instantly improves that wide receiver room. The overall room now should be significantly improved. Let's be honest. Noah Thomas is back. Terry Bussey, who was a 5-star, can fly. He's back. I think Jerome Miles, the kid I believe they signed from Utah, total difference maker. This is a loaded young wide receiver room. I mentioned it in the intro. It could be the best young talented room when you factor in guys that have 2 to 3 more years left to play in college athletics or college football. It could be the best room that has the youth in there overall, in my opinion. I think the biggest winner of this, though, outside of Mike Elko, the Texas A&M family, Colin Klein, it's Marcel Reed. I know they just brought in Jacob Zeno, the quarterback from UAB. He's going to be a backup, serviceable backup. It's Marcel Reed's team. From talking to people at Texas A&M in that personnel department, they're going to ride with him. Again, like I mentioned, same with Colin Klein. He's going to be fired up too. Best weapon he's had since Deuce Vaughn that he coached at Kansas State. But I think after talking to some people close to the Aggie program, a lot of Hudson's development, a lot of Micah Hudson's development will be determined by how much Marcel Reed develops this winter in the offseason conditioning program, through the spring where Micah Hudson will be there as well. That's a big benefit as well. And then throughout fall camp heading into 2025, I think they've done a phenomenal job upgrading that wide receiver room. I'll be honest with you. It's the best young wide receiver room I can remember in quite a while. That's after me working at Texas A&M. But how Marcel Reed develops is going to set the ceiling to that, because it doesn't matter how good your wide receivers are if you can't get to the ball. Again, I know Ohio State's in the playoffs, but Will Howard, we see it. They have so many weapons on the outside, but it sometimes just feels like they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's got to be a good system fit. And I think system fit be damned here. I just think you take an ultimate playmaker that can take off the top of the defense, win at all 3 levels. It's a no-brainer take. What did NIL factor into it? Again, I don't know the exact dollar amounts. If I had to bet it, he's making anywhere from $800 to $1 million probably. You can say $1 million. Maybe they overpaid a little bit, to be determined. But 800 is that market. 600 to 800 for most wide receivers. I think he's on the high end probably when you're talking to some of these collectives and the dollars being thrown around. Was that why he left Texas Tech? No. I heard he had some pretty good deals at Texas Tech. Is it more at A&M? Yeah, but I don't think that's why he left, if I'm being honest. I know Emmett Jones, who's a wide receiver coach at Oklahoma. He played at Texas Tech, very familiar with Texas Tech. He mentioned some chicken places that would throw some NIL deals a little bit out to some kids. Again, I think this is what was happening with him. I don't think this is why he left it. That's why I'm throwing it. Had to talk about the NIL, the money situation, because let's pull the blinds down, folks. Let's throw the blanket aside. It is what it is now. It's a dog eat dog world. It's about the money. It's about getting to the NFL. The three biggest determining factors on where kids go is playing time, the money, and how can you get me to the NFL. Facilities, uniforms, it's all extra. Those are the big three things right there, guys. Playing time, money, can you get me to the NFL. Now, I wanted to bring up my grading scale that I used to use at Texas A&M here, and I was going to bring it up to kind of show you how I would grade him here and just give you some examples. Again, so we grade them in these, 5 different categories, and a lot of programs use these. Georgia, LSU, Arkansas uses this grading scale a little bit. I guess Oregon uses this grading scale, but elite is the rare of rares, guys. Like, you don't really have a lot of elite players on college, all these college football teams. Example for them would be Travis Hunter, Caleb Williams, Will Anderson, Jeremiah Smith. It's a day one starter, rare, top player at his position group in the country, future potential first round pick. Only a handful of these guys in this category. Pretty standard right there. All league. This is where you're going to be in your top end of your roster. Example of those guys for Texas A&M here: Walter Nolan, Ruben Owen, Shamar Stewart. For A&M fans listening, you're very familiar with those names. Those are for sure year 1 or year 2 SEC starters. Has the talent to be an SEC contributor year 1. Projects to be a future all-conference player and high NFL draft pick. All take, again, speaks for itself. Winnable range here. This has to be explained. Winnable plus. Example here: Trey Zune, Le'Veon Moss, Bryce Anderson, Tyreek Chappelle. Winnable plus. Hear me out here. Not an immediate SEC starter, but projects to be a reliable SEC starter at some point, likely in year 2 or 3. Could have a chance to be a first-round contributor in certain situations, has high upside, projects to be an NFL draftable player, take an order, offer, hold. That's kind of the call to actions teams will take. Winnable minus, here we go, kind of the opposite of winnable plus here. Example from some A&M fans, just so they can kind of get just imagine the players they've seen on Texas A&M's roster the last few years. In my opinion, what I categorize some of these guys. So just so I'm putting a name to the label here. Winnable minus: Jared Kerr, Colton Tomlinson, Micah Teese. Winnable minus: developmental, potential 3 or 4 year starter, likely a guy who is a backup depth guy, can make plays but has certain limitations. A player who might flash but is too inconsistent to be winnable plus. Should be a high character guy, program guy. And then finally a jag. Just example, just a guy, prospect of interest. Example, it speaks for itself. I didn't want to call anybody out, but not an SEC caliber player, lacks ability, character, scheme, fit, or academics. Don't know enough about them to put them in above 4 categories. Must check off majority of the boxes to have a chance to keep evaluating. So those are kind of the evaluation. So again, I think you have to mirror, guys. I'm getting nerdy with you here from a personnel guy perspective. You have to mirror your grading scale, how you handle the high school evaluations, at least to the same terminology when I'm talking about elite, all league, winnable plus, winnable minus, just a jack, to your transfer portal college age guys as well. Just so we're all speaking the same language. It used to drive me nuts when head coaches would not get on board with that. But here, for this example right here, I think we got to go Micah Hudson. What would we give him grading-wise here, folks? He's not in the elite category again. I'm never really going to give that out. Again, I just mentioned Travis Hunter, Caleb Williams, Will Anderson, Jeremiah Smith. I mean, I would even maybe throw Bryce Young in there, but even his physical attributes bring that down from an elite standpoint. I mean, Caleb Williams could argue, but still. I would say upside is all league, but I think yeah, let's go all league. I'm going to give him an all league because I do think he's an immediate SEC starter this year for him. I do think he's I think he's an SEC starter for him. He's an offer take, has the talent to be an SEC contributor, projects to be a future all-conference guy. Yeah, off raw ability and stuff. I would say if there was such thing I could critique my own grading system here, he falls in between all league and winnable plus right there. And I wish there was like some all league minus. But again, I hated when coaches used to pick and pry at my grading scale. Like, you got to put him in something. Let's get off the fence. Let's call him an all-league player. My only holdup would be his ability, cognizantly, ability to learn the playbook again. Because remember, Zach Kitley's offense, the former Texas Tech OC that is now the head coach at FAU, that is not a very complicated system. So if you're struggling with that, and it's almost like paralysis analysis, and he's overthinking things, and it makes him drop balls, which it sounds like was happening a lot at practice in Lubbock, or at least at times, that could be concerning. But I also think that's something that can be fixed. Again, he has 2 to 3 more years, folks. I mean, he was just a freshman. He was just a young pup, a young cat this past year. So I think you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Obvious take here if you're Texas A&M. I mean, a no-brainer take here. Phenomenal pick across the board. But guys, just want to go break down that commit for Texas A&M. Tremendous pickup. That youth in that room is unbelievable. It's all going to come down, though, the development of Marcel Reed. He's going to have weapons around him, at least on the outside right now. Can they go get some guys at the tight end spot as well? But guys, I'm your host, Dave Shumate, again, longtime SEC personnel staffer, personnel director. I'm going to get on most all these takes. Cole Thompson is going to have you with the predictions, and he's going to hop in on some the reactions and grades as well, I'm sure. But any of the guys coming up down the pipe that will be committing to SEC schools, I will do the exact same thing. Break it down, kind of the background, where he fits in with X school, and then obviously just the overall summary, and I'll give you the grading system that I just broke down for you guys. But for your host, Dave Shumate, again, guys, go like, subscribe, go to the SEC Unfiltered channel. Again, tell us where we can get better, guys. The road to 20,000, folks, before let's just push it back a little bit. Let's get realistic. At the end of the college football season on January 19th, when this clock strikes midnight of the national championship game, let's be at 20,000 subscribers. That is my challenge to you. I'm holding you accountable, guys. But for Dave Shumate, I hope you have a phenomenal evening.